Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Vicki Townsend and I'm the founder of the Cafe D, and welcome to DivorceRX. Our webinars on Thursdays are designed to help you get through the process of divorce, whether that's before you even think about filing, to during the middle of the process we have experts for you, to questions long after you've been divorced, like child support and other arrangements, child kind of parenting agreements, alimony, and things like that. So you can look to us every Thursday for information and ideas from experts that can help you along on your journey. So our goal is to make that an easy and fast learning curve for you, so that you have the experts at your disposal. And what I'd love for you guys to do today, I have an amazing guest for you. We're going to be talking money today, which is a really uncomfortable conversation for most of us, including me. But the goal here is for us all to make good decisions and be prepared financially for what's about to happen or what has already happened, so that you can kind of get yourself together. So what I want you guys to do, if you're not members of our private community, I'd like to have the opportunity to half an hour after this webinar is over, so that you can ask him your personal questions about your situation. So Craig will be back there on our private Facebook page, and to do that, you go to our website. We're going to put up the link in just a second, where you can go really quickly, join as a member. It's just $7 a month, and you have access to experts like Craig, who's an amazing certified divorce financial planner. You'll have access to attorneys, accountants, marriage and family counselors, child psychologists, real estate agents, the works. So look for that back there each and every week here on DivorceRX, and of course on Tuesdays, where we provide inspiration and motivation for you to pick yourself up after the devastation of a painful divorce and move yourself forward, so that you can get on with your life and be super, super happy. So I am here today to introduce you to not only an amazing certified divorce financial analyst, but also a very dear friend. His name is Craig Richman. Craig's acronyms behind his name are just amazing. He is a CLU. We're going to go through all of this. CLU, ChFC, AIFA, CDFA. So Chartered Life Underwriter is the CLU. Chartered Financial Consultant is the ChFC. Accredited Investment Fiduciary Analyst. A Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, and which is really cool, that I love the most, is that he's a registered yoga teacher. So he's also got that he's very much heart-centered. He's a heart-centered financial advisor that primarily works with women going through the transition like divorce. With over 30 years of experience, he provides his clients guidance as their financial advocate to live their best life. Craig is also a certified interdisciplinary family collaborative practice facilitator. He's also a member of the Institute for Divorce Financial Analysts, Association of Divorce Financial Planners, and active in the South Palm Beach County Bar Association and Marital Law Section. So welcome, Craig. Thank you so much for taking your time today, being so generous with your time and your amazing knowledge and wisdom. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. My extreme pleasure to be here with you.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what it is that you'd like to share with our audience. Today we're going to be talking about, well, we'll go right into it if you're okay, and that would be, Craig, why don't you just tell us, what are the crucial steps that somebody should consider before they file for divorce?
Well, Vicki, that's really is probably the most important thing to consider, because I see a lot of people go into divorce that are not well prepared, and it'll come back to bite you in the hiney later. And just also let me state as a disclosure, we can't provide all the necessary advice one would need in this short call. So we're just kind of going to be glossing over a lot of these points, just so people can get at least an awareness of what needs to be done. Then I feel our time is well spent. The first thing is, before you file for divorce, there's some crucial steps you need to take. One is you got to start collecting financial documents. And I'd be happy to, I have a list of those documents that I'll make available to you, that you can make available to your listeners. Stuff like tax returns, stuff like bank account statements, savings accounts, mortgage statements, liability statements. It's very important you understand what liabilities you have with your husband currently, because you might not even be aware you have liabilities that might be present. So there's a whole list of financial documents, and while things are still in your good graces with your husband, it's time to kind of do a little, I don't say little investigation, but you need to go find stuff. If he's a business owner or he has pension documents, your best ability is to get all these documents so you can be well prepared. Now, in the divorce world, you have to fill out what they call a financial affidavit. It's no matter what you do, one of these has to be filled out. It's a lengthy document. Well, depending on your income, there's a short form and a long form depending on your income, but you have to pretty much understand your financial data in order to move forward with divorce. And that is so crucial because whether you deal with me or a lawyer or a judge, they always reference this financial affidavit moving forward. So that is a critical document that needs to be properly filled out. The next thing is you have to go check your credit report. And you can go to freecreditreport.com. There's quite a few other free services, but you may not really know what your credit is, and I think that's important to understand what liabilities you have with your current husband. So I would urge all of you to do that. Typically, you can go to say Equifax.com, and you can, because they're the 800-pound gorilla in the credit business, and you could order all three credit reports from all three agencies along with your FICO score. It's important that your credit doesn't go down the tubes, with your marriage. The next thing is you have to open up your own accounts. All right, and this may be a little bit uncomfortable for some of you, but if your husband currently has control of all the money, he's handled the finances, he pays the bills, you're really not involved in a financial part of the relationship, that really has to change and change immediately. You have to open your own checking account. You have to get your own credit cards, because if many spouses, or should I say spouses that don't do the right thing, use leverage to force the spouse to accept a settlement that may not be in your favor. So you want to empower yourself financially, and that's one way to do it is get your own credit cards, start building up your own cash in your account. Obviously, do not use your home address as the address of record. Open up a P.O. box, or go to like a UPS store and get a mailbox. You want to make sure that absolutely no correspondence comes to the house. And I know you might not feel really comfortable with that, but these are things you have to do. You have to understand that divorce is perhaps the biggest financial transaction you're going to be involved with. And you're going to be emotional along the way. Sometimes you're going to feel vindictive. There's other times you're going to feel like a victim. Other times you're going to want revenge, or you're going to have a whole host of emotions all the time. But to the extent possible, you need to be able to separate the emotional part of divorce from the financial part of divorce. It's really, really important.
Can I ask you a question, quick question about this? Well, because that's something that I didn't do. So I'm learning in hindsight, and I'm learning to be able to information to others as I go through this process. But I have to disclose those new accounts on my financial affidavit, correct?
Well, you do, but you still have the money. You still have the capital that you need in order to be able to. Hypothetically, I'm just using an extreme case. You kick you out of the house, or you want to be able to create at least some parity to the extent possible that you have some assets behind you in case you need to leave the house, in case there's some abuse going on. You just need to be able to create some financial ability to be able to empower yourself should the need arise.
Okay.
And the last one is you want to establish private communication. You know, I wouldn't tell all your friends that you're thinking about divorce. I wouldn't plaster it over Facebook. I would keep and I know you want to talk to everybody how you're feeling, but to the extent possible, you need to keep communications private. As I mentioned.
I have another question about that then. Would our private, because we want to be a place of support, right? The Cafe D does. That's what our mission is. That's what our goals are. We have a private Facebook group. Is it best for them to, if they want to go and just kind of let everything out on what's going on, is that a safe place? Do I need to establish something else that they could go to? But is that do you think
I think in a private chat is our password?
Yes.
Then I think that'd be okay.
They have to be invited. They're invited in. They are as a part of our membership. That's a part of what they get. And the goal was, clearly the goal is there, that they get to speak to people like you and divorce attorneys and, and therapists, child psychologists, that type of thing on a very private.
That's fine. That's a private group. But what I'm referring to is just your regular Facebook.
Okay.
Or other thing where anybody can access. And, in Facebook, if one person sees it, 1,000 persons sees it.
Right. Nobody sees this. Nobody else sees this.
Then you're fine. You just don't want to have any risks or bring attention to yourself. Like I say, it's a difficult time at best. And then so that's really the main things. You want to research divorce professionals. In terms of, I'm a certified divorce financial analyst. I primarily deal with the financial part of divorce, but you are going to have to, which we'll talk about next, in terms of dealing with how to find a lawyer, what kind of divorce you should be considering. But now kind of you're in the research phase, if you will. You're trying to get everything together, get the documents together. You just don't want to go see a lawyer and just not know anything about your finances or what's going on financially in your household. The more information you have, the better result you're going to get. Remember one thing. If you don't remember one thing I say today, remember one thing: you have one shot to get this right. That's the most important thing you have to remember. So it's a long road at times, but you must be diligent. You must keep the emotion at bay to the extent possible. And once you do have a good team of advisors that you're working with, listen to them, and in the end, you'll get the best result possible.
I think you're very right. One shot to get it right, and you want to make sure that the steps that you take are in your best interest, and that, but still within integrity. And that's the challenge, because sometimes you're not married to somebody of integrity, and that's the challenge.
Yeah, I met with a young lady yesterday who thought her husband was cheating on her, and she had proof that he was on all kinds of hookup sites. And what I was trying to do, and I felt really bad for her, married over 22 years, but I tried to tell her that that's not really what we have to focus on. We have to focus on empowering you and getting you where you need to be in order to move forward. So it's very easy to go astray, in this process.
Well, send her over to the Cafe D. We'll hold her hand.
Okay, I absolutely will.
Great. Well, so then that leads us to the next question, which was another one that in my particular set of circumstances, I'm not sure that I even knew, that I don't think I made a bad choice for the situation that I was in, because I was married to somebody that there was no negotiating with, and there was I couldn't trust what even came out of his mouth. So I had to bring in an attorney like the attorney that I had, which was a litigator. And so that was, important for me. But the truth of the matter is, despite the fact that this was not my first divorce, Craig, I didn't know about all of my options. So why don't we go through that and find out, how do you pick the right attorney? Because there's collaborative attorneys, and there's mediators, and there's bulldogs, there's pit vipers. How do you choose? And financially, how do you make that?
That's an incredible question. And let's go through the types of divorce first, because I think you have to understand where you initially feel you would fall into. Now, a lot of this has to deal with let's go to the first one. The first one is do it yourself. And if you are married, you have a very simple estate, very few assets, you're good friends with your spouse, and you said, you know what, we're just kind of moving in different directions, and you want to do it on your own, you can go to the courthouse, and they'll hook you up with the appropriate paperwork, and assign you a judge, whatnot. I don't recommend do it yourself, because frankly, there could be always something, especially people that are not well versed in finance, that they're going to get wrong. And I just feel that doing divorce on your own can be very dangerous, and I'm not a big proponent of that, but you can do that. The next step, you had mentioned mediation. Now, mediation, you could deal with a certified mediator, but just know that a mediator is not a lawyer. All right. Well, they can be a lawyer, but they cannot dispense the practice of law. All they're there for is essentially hear both sides and just essentially tell both parties what the law says, you know, or what the guidelines are. They cannot make any recommendations. So again, if you have a simple divorce and you're both parties are in extreme agreement as to what they want, and it's simple, then mediation is fine, and it's probably let's say the next lowest cost to do that. But again, in mediation, neither party is represented by either me or legal counsel, and may not get the best advice, or any advice for that matter. And again, it may not be the best thing, but it is a good cost item. The next thing, I am what they call certified in collaborative law. Collaborative law is a fairly new concept. It's where each party hires a lawyer, and it's almost like, and then there's still say there's four parties. You have the husband, the wife, and the two lawyers. It's almost like the four parties have to get along in the sandbox, because each spouse signs a participation agreement that they agree not to go to litigation. And the lawyers also are signing off that they agree not to litigate. So that's a great way to do it, but you have to be forthcoming with all your assets, all your information. The only potential drawback with collaborative is if one spouse decides this process is no longer working for them, that the other spouse potentially is holding back information or not being forthright or whatever. What happens is the process stops. You have to then hire new counsel, because both those lawyers have to recuse themselves from the case, and you essentially have to start over after you've already spent, you know, whatever amount of money. What's great about collaborative is I could be brought in as what they call financial neutral, and a mental health professional, a psychologist, psychiatrist, or a licensed social worker could be brought in who specializes in divorce, just to, again, as a neutral person to help with the process. So it's almost like it's very much a team approach. I'm a very big fan of it, but that has to work well with both spouses. Now, if you don't see that working, then the final way is litigation. The problem with litigation is it can get crazy expensive. That the lawyers go back and forth with their depositions, with their motions for discovery, court dates, and you name it, it gets dragged out, and ka-ching, 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 the lawyers ring up their their wealth, because that's really how they make their money. And the problem is, you really won't know. You can have everything going in your favor, but it really depends on what judge you get is going to ascertain really what the result is going to be. So it almost is very much a crapshoot. And I think the statistic is, I believe 95% of all cases do settle on the courthouse footsteps, because both parties agree that they really don't want to leave things for chance. But at that point, you've spent an incredible amount of money to hurt the other side, or to show them your boss. And I feel divorce is not about that. Again, take the emotion. It's about getting what's right, what's best. Especially if you have children. That's a really big issue. So litigation is there, still alive, but it can ultimately be quite expensive.
Well, one of the things in my case, because it was so contentious, our divorce was, did not start from a good place, and did not even end in a good place. But what was clear in our case was that, and in the case you talked about mediation, that was actually the way that my husband, my divorce with that's the father of my children, we did it through a mediator. And for me, looking back, and you'd think that I would learn this stuff by now, right? I mean, that's why I'm here. That the mediator, when I did mediation, a mediator does not represent your best interest. They're there to form an agreement. That is their mission, and they are not there as your representative. So if you need somebody that has got your back, and you are not in a position where you think that your ex is in a place where your ex has your back, which unfortunately that's quite a lot, which is why this is such a big business. But when you are not in a position to mediate or collaborate, then unfortunately you're kind of stuck in that situation where you need a litigator.
Well, let's talk about mediation for a second. On that note, as you know, lawyers typically go to mediation to try to work it out. And unfortunately, what I've seen is a lot of lawyers just don't settle because they want to continue to bill the client. And I hate to say that, but that's really the truth. Okay?
We have some good ones here. We do at the Cafe. We have some really good ones that did not.
That's awesome.
They have a conscience.
Well, that's awesome. My role in mediation, if I'm brought in, is to evaluate the settlements, whereas the CPA kind of looks backwards to see what happened. I look forward to see whether the settlement is actually going to be able to meet the needs of the client. In other words, that's the problem, is you have a settlement. How does the client really know whether that's going to make sense or not financially? I'm able to actually evaluate whether that settlement is going to do all the things that the client is expecting it to do. And if it isn't, I go back to the lawyer and the client, say, you know what, this is not good enough. Either you have to change your expectations, or you have to ask the other side for additional capital. But I'm very much a team player. I'm a big advocate for the client. And I guess let me just talk about really our third section, how to choose a lawyer. On that, anybody who's trained in collaborative law, and I'll give you the website for the collaborative law practice that has a listing of all lawyers that are trained in collaborative. People that if they're in collaborative, more than likely they're going to be more heart-centered and have the ability to try to work things out properly. But the key is you want to be able, don't listen to your friends or your family in regard to divorce. They don't know your situation exactly. They're not pros in a divorce game. I'd prefer you go to a professional and maybe get the names of 2 or 3 lawyers that might fit your situation and go interview them. and go research them to see and see whether you have a good rapport with them. You know, how would they approach a case? That's your best way, just to grab somebody. Well, he's a shark. You want him. The shark may not be what might be best for you. It may be, but it may not be. So there's a lot of research. There's a lot of homework that has to be done, Vicki. There's no other way around it. You know, the more educated one is, the more powerful they'll be, and be able to ultimately go down this road on the best basis possible. What
would you say, Craig, were like maybe the top 2 or 3 questions when you're going in for that interview process that you should absolutely ask your divorce, you know, when before you've hired them, when you're asking them, what are the most important things that you would look for?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if they're my top 3, but the 3 that come to mind. One would be, you know, how do you approach divorce? What's your process? I think that's really, really important. And you can get a sense of character as to whether the attorney is really truly there for you or they're not. I think you can really feel that with the level of conversation. Obviously, you have to figure out what they charge. That's a very, very important piece. Is how do they charge? You know, do they do all the work, or is there paralegals doing work and they're charging at a lower price? And what can you expect to pay in legal fees based on different scenarios? So you want to get a financial handle on what that's going to cost. And I think those are really the 2 big keys. And you know, and I guess the other, I might even ask for referrals. Is there anybody they could refer that might be somebody I could relate to, that I could talk to in regard to how their divorce was handled? Because a lawyer can say whatever they want, but I think it's key to talk with someone who's been their client, who can say, you know what, this lawyer was fabulous, or you know what, I would never use this lawyer again for the following reasons. But the whole key is just for you to find the appropriate counsel. So, you know, given your set of circumstances, both the dynamic financially and a dynamic socially within your household with children, so you can make the best guess possible in terms of moving forward with divorce.
So that's awesome. So I think that this is definitely a great starting ground for those that are thinking about it. And I would love to have a conversation with you about maybe settlements and how that looks and what that means for their financial future. I know that you can't give financial advice in a platform like this, but maybe we can create some things and some thoughts about what to do after, because that's a really important part of this equation, is how to be financially secure after the fact, and not just today, but looking forward 10, 20, 30 years from now. So we know that you advised us to go out and get our financial house in order. So open our own accounts, know our credit scores, figure that out, get some credit cards in our own name, get ourselves a P.O. box where all of that literature and bills and things like that can come to, and set up a private communication network such as the Cafe D, our private page, which sounds like that would be the best option for them, where they can come and just ask questions, talk about it, get support for others in a very private setting that's not available to everybody else in the outside world. You've taught us now today what the different types of attorneys are and how we can find out the best one, and then we need to, the top 3 questions that we need to ask, which are how do you approach divorce in the process, what do you charge, and what can I look forward to from a financial perspective, our relationship together, and then ask them for some referrals. And so that is an awesome half an hour today that we've done. And so now what we're going to do, Craig, if you're good with it, we're going to go over to our private Facebook page, and we're going to ask, we're going to have our members ask some questions of you, and you can be there. You're in a safe environment where you can have some questions with Craig and take this opportunity you have that you need to have, you know, some answers to, you've got some thoughts behind, get his thoughts right now while he's here. And Craig, I hope that you will be on our Facebook page, on our private one, our private community. Both are public and are private, on a regular basis, where you can kind of interject and get to know and create some relationships, because you, my friend, are not only an amazing certified divorce financial analyst, but you are also a dear friend and somebody that I know, like, and trust. So
Thank you very much.
I'm honored that you were here with us today. So everybody, look forward to meeting with Craig. If you have any questions, please feel free to go over there. Wanted to let you all know that next week we're going to be talking about, I'm actually going to be doing a webinar on our Tuesday webinar about forgiveness, and it's not what you think. It is the most freeing thing I ever did for the process of getting through and picking myself up by the bootstraps and getting this back again. It was a huge player in the whole deal. So I hope you guys will join me for that. We also have your friend Lori Dubois coming next Thursday. We're going to be talking about selling your real estate. You're selling your house, because boy, oh boy, I did not think that there was a lot of that process, but boy, when you're going through a divorce, it's a huge process, and there's a lot of things that you can do to take yourself, save yourself some time, money, and your sanity as you go through it if you take Lori's advice. So we're looking forward to that. Join us next week. And meanwhile, we will see you over at our private Facebook page. So goodbye for now, and we'll see you next week, or we'll see you on our private Facebook page. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being a part of the Cafe D, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.